A happy moment has arrived. I have knitted my last row of seed stitch on the terminal end of the blanket. And what you were looking at now is my working yarn extended from the last stitch and wrapped 3 times around the loop. Doing this is simply a way of measuring the yarn. I will snip it at the 3 times around point, and that should make it plenty to do my bind off. I'm going to start on the end away from the yarn tail, which the yarn tail's here. My last stitch is popped off, so I'll put it back on. And I'm going to lift up all of these loops. This is not just any crochet hook. It's an interchangeable end Tunisian hook. So I'll be able to pile all these loops on this cable. And I'll have an easier time binding off attractively once I've got control of them like this. Now you do not have to use this bind off. You may use any one you want. Backstitch would also be appropriate. You can crochet off from the loom directly. What I'm going to do is going to end up like a crochet cast off, but it's just a little bit easier to work, I think. I'm going to go all the way around picking up the loops. By the way, this will not match the cast on that I used. I used the double E-wrap. If I'd been really concerned about that, I should have used some version of crocheted cast on so that they would produce a chain stitched edged. I decided I wasn't that concerned, but if you are, you'll want to alter your methods. And in my opinion, the bind off that would most closely resemble the cast on that we did use, the double E-wrap, would be the backstitch bind off. I tried a variant of it thinking I could make it more like, but I was not pleased with it. So I'll keep working on that idea for the future. Just about there. Anytime you feel like you need more control, just scrunch your hook along and get all those stitches onto the cable. At this point, I'm going off camera to lift the work free of the loom because I don't want to risk catching any pegs or especially pins in my fabric. Well, phooey, I had a technical glitch and lost the video of me actually binding off the blanket piece. So I'm going to show you this same bind off on another piece of similar knitting. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, this time pull through 2 stitches, and every other time hereafter. You can control the tension manually so that your bind off comes out the exact same width as the fabric likes to relax to. And here is what the edge looks like. It's very nice bind off, very simple, and easy to get it stabilized at exactly the right width. I'm about ready to pull my very last loop through. And I can pull the yarn tail through too. And that's how much we had left, starting with 3 times the trip around the loom. I did not, by the way, wrap my loom real tightly. I loosely looped it, loop, 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 snip. So I can weave this in. In actual fact, I don't find that last stitch to be secured to my satisfaction. That's just normal for what this is. So I make a loopy kind of a knot, pseudo knot. Now it cannot back out. And now I'll weave the remainder in. Really, the last remaining chore that we need to do is weave in our ends. So I'm going to show you a couple of the most popular ways. I threaded the tail that we just ended up with into the yarn needle, and I can weave it in and out of stitches. If I want to make it really secure, I can turn and go back the other way for a bit. And there's really no need to weave in more than this. I can simply snip off the remainder right there. I don't have my snips with me, but you know how to use scissors. There's no likelihood of that backing out. Another popular method, and one I like very much, is to use some sort of a latch tool. This one's a rug latch tool for rug making, but you can buy one at the craft store and do the same thing. Work it through stitches on the back of the fabric. Now you grab your yarn tail in this case and pull it through. And from there I can either weave a little bit backwards, going the other direction, or I can just snip off depending on how securely I assess it to be, how secure I assess it to be, and how much wear and tear I think it's going to get. So I can snip that one, have not yet done this one, which is the other end of a join. Let's use the crochet hook to do this one. Slide it under some stitches, grab the yarn tail, pull it through. This one I don't have all that much to work with, but I should be able to get it back through a couple things the other direction. Another method that I'm not going to show you is only recommended if you really have perfectly matching thread, as in sewing thread and a tiny needle. I could sew this tail right here. I could whip stitch and tie off the thread and snip off the remainder. And that can be a good thing to do if for some reason you don't have enough tail to do a good weaving in. But what we want to do is get rid of all the ends for tidiness and good looks. If you made a shawl, you're finished. Here's the back of it. And here's a front look. There are a million ways to wrap it, and you'd probably want a fancier shawl pin than my clothespin. If you're making a blanket, you need a second panel. The last panel, we started out by knotting a loop and placing it on this peg. Oops, need to straighten that a little. So this time, I want this to be the first peg and cast on in that direction before I cast on in this direction. If you're using the double E wrap as I am, the E's change direction. Let's see. Let's pretend we were doing the first panel to remind ourselves. They were really backwards E's, like this. So these are the reverse, and they are frontwards E's. Exactly as if you were drawing an E. There's my tool, or a tool. Bottom loop over top loop. And the advantage of doing it in this manner, starting and moving that way, is that without changing any of the instructions, this panel will come out as a mirror image of the first one. I very carefully did not say left and right. Instead, for example, we started with 12 seed stitches going this way. Well, our cast on will end up over here. So we'll be ready to start with 12 seed stitches, and they'll be on this side. That will produce a mirror image pattern. without changing any instructions whatsoever. So this row is all you need to do to set yourself up to succeed with the second panel by following the identical instructions. So I'm going to go around, cast on, get started, and we'll all get back together when we've knitted panel number 2, and I'll show you a fun method of joining the two. See you then.